It's taken me a few days to make this video, mostly because I can't stop playing it, but ladies and gentlemen, official VR support in Star Citizen is finally a thing. VR support is now sitting in the 4.5 PTU, and it's something you can actually put a headset on and experience for yourself, and believe it or not, have a genuinely good time with. This will be a day long remembered, to quote my favorite space villain. I had a feeling something was coming when the VR headset company Pimax reached out to me back in October to be a brand ambassador, while fully knowing that Star Citizen is my main topic. The more digging I did, the more confident I became that this was right around the corner. Sean Tracy talked about internal VR testing back in July, which should have gotten way more attention than it did, and now it's here. Speaking of which, to mark the occasion, Pimax is giving my viewers additional savings on their VR headsets, up to $120 off the Pimax Crystal Super and Crystal Light, specifically for viewers of my channel. Referral links to those, along with my initial VR headset review, are in the description. I know the first reaction a lot of people are going to have, because it was the same reaction I had, which is to immediately start qualifying this VR release. Yes, it's experimental. CIG has been very clear about that. Things are broken, things are missing, and some systems don't behave correctly yet. That's expected, and honestly, I appreciate them being upfront instead of pretending this is further along than it really is. This also didn't come out of a big roadmap reveal or a CitizenCon segment. There wasn't a cinematic trailer or a marketing blitz. This came from a small group of engineers inside CIG, led by Sylvan CIG, who spent time experimenting with VR on their own and pushing it forward internally. You can feel the difference when something exists because someone genuinely cared enough to build it, rather than because it needed to be checked off a list. Before you stampede into the comments to complain that they're working on VR now when they should have been working on something else, fair warning, you're gonna look stupid. Those comments always say more about how some people can't understand parallel development rather than the gotcha they think they're pointing out. Star Citizen's a passion project for a lot of people inside CIG, and moments like this really show it. People love to say the developers don't play their own game, but I've never fully bought that. Sylvan spending his own time pushing VR forward is proof enough for me. For an initial implementation, it's honestly pretty incredible what they've pulled off. What really stood out to me is that this isn't some limited VR slice of the game. You're not restricted to Arena Commander or a curated demo. You can move through the entire persistent universe with a headset on, from the main menu to walking around on foot to flying ships. It's all there, rough edges and all. The UI is clearly not designed for VR yet. It's messy and it can be annoying at times, but it's also something I can live with for now. That part will improve, and I'm not particularly worried about it. What really surprised me were the features this launched with, especially theater mode. On paper it sounds simple, but in practice it removes a huge amount of friction. You can be fully immersed in VR and then switch instantly to a virtual screen inside your headset that mirrors your desktop. It's like playing a game using a movie theater screen, hence the name. One button press takes you right back into full VR. That flexibility matters more than people realize. If you love flying in VR but don't enjoy doing FPS combat or inventory management that way, you don't have to commit to one approach. You just switch modes on the fly without restarting the game or taking the headset off. And you don't need to plan ahead of time what kind of session you're having today. There's also dynamic VR switching, which sounds like a gimmick until you actually think about how natural it feels. If your headset supports it, the game can automatically enable VR when you put the headset on and drop back to desktop when you take it off. Sylvan even joked about wanting someone to rig a headset hanging from the ceiling so you could physically pull it down to enter VR and take it off to go back to desktop. Knowing this community, I expect someone to do exactly that and post it on Reddit within a few days. Let's talk nuts and bolts for a minute, because your setup does matter, and this is where some people are going to hit a little friction trying to play this. You need to be running Vulkan in the settings menu. DX11 isn't supported for VR, and starting with 4.5 Vulkan should already be the default. It's probably worth trying to switch over to Vulkan full-time because DX11 is no longer going to be supported. If you have a specific issue in Vulkan, it's better to bug report it now before DX11 disappears entirely, perhaps as soon as patch 4.6. Star Citizen uses OpenXR, so your OpenXR runtime needs to be set correctly. Once a headset is detected, VR options show up under the comms, FOIP, VR, and head tracking section. If those options don't appear, checking the game.log and searching for OpenXR will usually point you in the right direction. For Pimax users, I found that I need to run the headset with Steam VR set as the OpenXR runtime. Once I did that, everything worked natively. There's a lot of tuning available once you're in. Settings like adjusting IPD scaling, tuning visor and lens placement, and monitor mirror modes for streaming output. For a first implementation, there's a surprising amount of flexibility already baked in. All of your gameplay still uses mouse and keyboard, HOTAS, or whatever control scheme you already run. There's no motion controller support yet, which makes sense at this stage. Instead, you get 2 camera behavior modes. One prioritizes stability and comfort, the other gives you more direct control but increases the risk of motion sickness. Neither is perfect right now, but having the choice matters. Performance is about what you'd expect. VR is demanding, and you're going to need a fairly recent higher-end PC. A strong GPU, enough VRAM, and upscaling like DLSS, FSR, or TSR are going to help a lot. If you're running a MetaQuest over Link, disabling asynchronous space warp is a good idea right now, because reprojection artifacts get rough as soon as frame rate dips. There are also limitations. Holographic displays like ship radars are disabled. Visor effects like rain and frost don't work yet in VR. Water interaction effects are off. Precision targeting doesn't zoom. Some gimbal behavior breaks when slave to view direction. Item pop-in can be pretty noticeable because of how VR enforces level of detail changes. Other players can't see your VR look offsets yet, which feels a little odd in a game where we're used to reading body language of other players with things like face over IP. Honestly, none of that shocked me. If anything, the fact that this works across the entire game at all, despite those issues, is impressive. The part that stuck with me most was Sylvan's personal message. He joined CIG in 2018 with the goal of helping make this happen. He talked about pouring his heart into the work and finally seeing the scale of ships in VR, and understanding their impact in a way flat screens just don't convey. That sense of scale is something Star Citizen has chased for years, and VR might be the first time it really clicks. I 100% believe this means that we're getting VR for Squadron 42, and in a way, we're beta testing that now without ruining the story. CIG needs all the playtesting it can get to make that experience as good as it could be, and I have zero interest in beta testing Squadron 42. I want to experience the game and be enveloped by the story the first time. Thinking about that further, I'll probably go dark from the net until I'm finished with it after it releases. But let me pump the brakes a little, this is early. There's still a lot to do. Motion controller support, full body tracking, face and eye tracking are all things they've already talked about exploring once this stabilizes. What matters right now is that this exists, it's playable, and the community has a real opportunity to shape where it goes. If you try it, be sure to report any bugs on the issue council under the experimental VR category. Sylvan would like you to test whether issues are VR specific or also happen in theater mode, which would indicate it's not a VR issue. Your feedback actually carries real weight here, especially given how small the VR capable player pool is compared to the total player base. Sure, this is rough, it's obviously unfinished, and it's gonna frustrate some people, but it's also one of the most encouraging signs of forward momentum I've seen in a while. And yeah, seeing the Mercury Star Runner in VR really does hit different. If you're interested in getting into VR, check out my referral links for a Pimax headset. They really are the most powerful headsets in the world. I love mine, and I'm going to keep it. If you made it this far, you're already one of the crew, so get subscribed because there's so much more to talk about. If you'd like to support the channel further, there's the join button or my referral link to the impound in the description. I'd like to thank my channel members, as they directly keep me flying. Seriously, you guys rock. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.